Don Winslow, the best-selling author of The Power of the Dog, wrote a novel, The Winter of Frankie Machine. It concerns a retired hitman who finds he has been targeted for murder and must delve deep into his past to find out who wants him dead before it's too late. In search of their reunion project after 1995's Casino, Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese both read the book and felt it would make a fitting movie project for them both, with De Niro in the role of the aged hitman Frankie Machine. Everything seemed set to go. However, during his research for the role, De Niro read another book called I Heard You Paint Houses by Charles Brandt, also concerned with an aged hitman, this one being based on the real-life confession of former hitman Frank Sheeran. De Niro became infatuated with the book and told Scorsese that this was the project the two should be making instead, and they ditched Frankie Machine. Fast forward several years, and I Heard You Paint Houses was transformed into the big-budget all-star Netflix gangster movie starring De Niro, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci with 10 Oscar nominations. The Winter of Frankie Machine passed through several hands, including those of veteran crime movie directors Michael Mann and William Friedkin, but has yet to actually be adapted into a film. Frankie Machine's author Don Winslow wrote a humorous piece in an online article for Deadline a few months back, explaining how the film project came together and also his feelings on the movie not being made, ultimately blaming screenwriter Eric Roth. You can read the article on Deadline's website, or I'll read it out here. It's called I Blame Eric Roth. Frankie, Bobby, Marty, Eric and me. I blame Eric Roth. For what? In 2006, I wrote a novel titled The Winter of Frankie Machine about a retired hitman in San Diego. A few weeks after it came out, I learned that Martin Scorsese wanted to make a film of it with Robert De Niro as Frankie. Scorsese and De Niro, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Like every other sentient being, I revered Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas and on. I went to school on Mean Streets, The King of Comedy and Casino. And now Marty and Bobby were going to make Frankie? I couldn't believe it. The project went on this storied fast track. The writing team of Brian Koppelman and David Levian was hired to do the screenplay. Everyone was excited. One day my phone rang at home and I answered it to hear, "May I speak with Don Winslow, please? This is Robert De Niro." Thinking it was one of my friends jerking my chain, I said, "Yeah, and this is Tinkerbell." It was Robert De Niro. One of the greatest actors in the history of film, Vito Corleone, Travis Bickle, Jake LaMotta, Lefty Rosenthal, was calling me at home. We had a great conversation. He said how much he loved the book, the character of Frankie. He asked a lot of smart questions, but I was looking at my watch. At the time, I was volunteering at a local high school, directing a play. It was a production day and I had to get to the school to let the kids in and run the show. Finally I said, "Mr. De Niro, this has been great, but I have to go." I explained the situation to him and he couldn't have been more gracious. He told me to tell the kids to break a leg. I did, and was shocked and dismayed that they knew him from Meet the Parents. But I had the distinction to say that I got off a call with Robert De Niro to direct a high school production of Guys and Dolls. The project went forward. I was on the phone with Koppelman and Levian answering the questions, kicking around ideas. Script was written, if I remember correctly. Locations were being scouted. Green light. It was a go. Then Eric Roth stuck his beak in. Now I like Eric Roth. I've never met him. What I mean is that I really like his work. Who doesn't? I think Munich is one of the best films ever made, and the man also wrote screenplays for Forrest Gump and The Insider. There's nothing not to like about Eric Roth. Except, to help De Niro research for his role for hitman Frankie Machine, Eric Roth sent him a book called I Heard You Paint Houses, a quite good non-fiction work about a hitman. For research, Bobby. For research, Marty. To make Frankie. Not to like it better and decide to make it instead of Frankie Machine. Elmer Leonard cautioned against using exclamation points. Sorry, Mr. Leonard, but this time I'm using them, because I'm yelling. But this is what happened. Messrs. De Niro and Scorsese decided that they liked You Paint Houses, Don't You? Better than The Winter of Frankie Machine, dropped Frankie and went off to paint houses. They made a film called The Irishman that you might have heard of. I'm not telling tales out of school. The whole crew that eventually made The Irishman did a Netflix documentary about it, so I've had to get phone calls from every friend I've ever had, and a few I haven't, to tell me about it. I really enjoyed those phone calls. Among the people who didn't call me were Marty or Bobby. Koppelman and Levian did, something I've always appreciated. But I'll take the call, guys. No hard feelings, and you know the number. And guys, for my part, I have to confess that I haven't brought myself to see The Irishman yet. I should, I will, I understand that it's very good. Of course it is. The director and the star are two of the very best. I'll always be proud, sincerely, that you were at one time interested in a book of mine. Now, Eric, we've never met. We'll probably never meet. You strike me as a good guy, but the next time you send research to an actor doing a character of mine, could you send him the Encyclopedia Britannica, a WikiLeaks article, or a doctoral dissertation? Something really dull? Something utterly unfilmable? Would you do that for me? For you film lovers, if you go on Netflix and don't see a DVD called The Winter of Frankie Machine, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, blame Eric Roth. I do. I've actually read The Winter of Frankie Machine. I've reviewed it on the channel. And I do think Marty and De Niro made the right call in picking The Irishman over Frankie Machine. Overwhelmingly so. Machine is really enjoyable, but much of the enjoyment comes from the way Winslow writes the story. The story itself is a little generic. It's also a genre piece, not really the kind of film you expect from the long-awaited reunion between veterans Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese. The Irishman, on the other hand, was an epic 3.5-hour gangster film which also starred Al Pacino and Joe Pesci, and I can't see an adaptation of Frankie Machine being better than it. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel, and thanks for watching.